The giant Awakens. The people of the north had always feared the deep glaciers, not because of the cold, not because of the storms, but because of the sounds that sometimes echoed beneath the ice, low rumbles that rolled through the mountains like distant thunder. For generations, the elders said those sounds were nothing more than the glacier shifting with the seasons. But the oldest seers knew the truth. Something ancient slept beneath the frozen world, and now it was waking. Since the night the black aurora appeared in the sky, the north had not been the same. Wolves gathered in the forest. The seas moved with strange silent currents, and far in the mountains, the great glacier of Skullgrim had begun to crack. The Ice Warden had risen, but the Guardian's awakening had not stopped what was coming. It had only confirmed it. The ancient prisons of the north were breaking, and something far older than the Ice Warden had begun to stir beneath the mountains. In the village of Skarnford, the warriors gathered inside the great hall as the storm howled outside. Snow slammed against the wooden walls and the wind screamed through the frozen valley. Leif stood near the center of the hall, gripping the hilt of his axe. Across from him stood Huldrych, the old seer. "The glacier has broken," Leif said. The hall fell silent. Huldrych slowly nodded. "Yes." One of the older warriors spoke. "We saw the light from the mountains. The sky itself turned blue." Huldrych leaned on his staff. "That was not lightning." "Then what was it?" someone asked. The old seer's voice grew quiet. "The prison opening." A heavy silence filled the hall. Even the fire in the center of the room seemed weaker. Leif frowned. "You said the Ice Warden was meant to guard the prisons." "It was," Huldrych replied. "Then why did it not stop this?" The old seer looked toward the north. "Because the Ice Warden was never meant to fight what is coming." That night the storm grew worse. The black aurora burned brighter than ever across the sky. And far beyond the village, deep in the mountains, the earth began to shake. The glacier that had stood for 10,000 years shattered like glass. Entire walls of ice collapsed into the valley below. And from the heart of the broken mountain, something massive began to rise. At first it looked like part of the glacier itself, a mountain of ice slowly lifting from the frozen ground, but then the shape moved. A massive hand formed from stone and frost clawed its way out of the shattered glacier. The ground trembled. Another hand followed. Then a massive shape rose from the mountain itself. It was a giant, not the giants of old Viking tales. Something far older. Its body was made of frozen stone and ancient ice. Massive cracks glowed faintly across its skin like veins of blue fire trapped beneath the surface. Its head slowly lifted above the shattered glacier. The creature was taller than the cliffs surrounding the valley. Storm winds spiraled around it as the giant rose to its full height. For thousands of years it had slept beneath the mountain, sealed there by powers long forgotten. Now the prison was gone. The giant had awakened. Far across the frozen north, the wolves of Fenrir's bloodline howled. They felt it, the same ancient power that had begun stirring beneath the world. Back in Skarnford, the ground suddenly shook beneath the village. The warriors rushed outside. Across the northern horizon, a massive shadow rose above the mountains. Leif stared into the storm. "What is that?" Lightning flashed across the sky. For a moment the entire valley was illuminated in white light, and the warriors saw it. A towering shape moving across the distant mountains, a creature larger than anything they had ever imagined. The giant had begun to walk. Each step shook the earth beneath it. Entire cliffs collapsed as the creature moved through the frozen valleys. Huldrych stepped forward slowly. His voice trembled. "The first of the mountain titans." Leif looked at him. "You mean there are more?" Huldrych closed his eyes. "Yes." The giant continued moving across the northern mountains, its massive body tearing through ancient glaciers as if they were nothing more than snow. Storm clouds spiraled around its head. The black aurora pulsed above it. The creature lifted its massive face toward the sky, as if listening, as if answering a call. Far to the north, the Ice Warden stood atop the shattered glacier where it had awakened. The Guardian watched the giant moving across the mountains. It understood what this meant. The prisons were breaking, the creatures sealed beneath the world were rising again, and this was only the beginning. The Ice Warden lifted its massive arm toward the north, toward the deeper glaciers where even older monsters slept, because it could feel them stirring. The world itself was beginning to awaken its ancient powers, and no force in Midgard would be able to stop them. Leif watched the giant disappear into the storm beyond the mountains. His grip tightened on his axe. "If that thing reaches the villagers..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The north was changing, the age of men was ending, and the age of giants had begun. If you enjoyed this Viking dark fantasy story, like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next chapter of Frozen Saga. New monsters, ancient legends, and forgotten gods are awakening across the frozen north. This saga is far from over.